Hi, all you guys and gals. Welcome into the 34th episode of the Q-Code Podcast. I don't know why every time I bring in the show, Trav goes on wild on laughter over there.
It's like all of a sudden you became this like Southern woman.
Come have a sip of my lemonade.
Hi, all you guys and gals out
Hey, all
there.
you
Grab
cool
your
cats
partner,
and
swing
hot
them around.
Yeah, that's how did you bring it in last time, Trav? Cool cats and what?
You cool cats and kittens. I was Carol Baskin.
From Carol Baskin. But you were like weird 1850s Carol Baskin.
Hey, all you guys and gals.
Hey, all you guys and dolls out there.
Anyway, that's how I like to bring in some episodes. You just never know. With the Q-Code Podcast, different intro every time. But we got another good show for you today. So in the past, well, quick little thing for people who have been listening to all of our episodes or watching them on YouTube, thank you very much. We had 2 episodes on the coronavirus originally recorded. One of them is in lockdown due to Zoom holding our file ransom. So until they...
What? Have they given us a reason?
They have not even responded, I guess. This is from what I'm told.
No. It's probably lost.
It can't even be bothered.
One episode. But in that episode,
2 hours is gone.
We did describe how we were going to now bring it back to a little bit of the lighter side, more of the fun that we've traditionally had on the podcast. And today we're going to talk about toys. What is more fun than toys?
I love toys.
Trav, do you guys like toys?
I just said I love toys.
So he definitely does. I also like toys. Alan, do you like toys?
But anyway, before
let's just say when I was prepping for this episode, I realized how little of a childhood I had.
Sorry.
I'm trying to keep it lighter.
I know.
We just talk about depressing childhoods.
Yeah.
We don't need to go into the deep, dark past of the Barnes family.
Speaking of being a child, this is the last time I shave right before we do this. I look like a little kid. That's all I have to say.
That's how you always look.
Yeah. Trav M has a giant beard. Trav C has a beard.
It's not
Aaron
giant.
has a goatee.
See, look, mine's coming in nice.
I'm pretty sure you've been growing that since you were 16, and it's like finally.
That means by the time I'm 100, it's going to be all the way in. But yeah, so I mean, I think what Alan is trying to speak of is our childhood was a little different than Trav C's, and I'm curious, Trav M, who or what you thought of Trav C's Christmases. Were they much more grandiose than yours, or?
Well, I mean, we shared Christmases, so I feel like they were just right.
They were spot on, man.
Well, no, but you had Christmas at your dad or at your mom / Trav's dad.
Yeah, I mean, his mom's side was pretty good. I mean, my dad's side was so bizarre that it was hard to do a fair comparison. So he got us like all musical instruments one year.
Trav C's mom's house one time, and there was so many gifts, like there was nowhere to walk. It was just gifts upon gifts.
I mean,
and then Trav came to my house, and he's like, "Oh, it looks like Santa hasn't come yet." I'm like, "Oh, he's come." He's like, "Well, there's like one present under the tree." And I was like, "Yeah, that's it. We just share presents."
My Santa brought us new chopsticks. No. So
well,
I mean,
we got one chopstick. If we're good, we'll get the second one next year.
Okay, it is not my fault. It's not even Trav's was a more traditional divorced parent Christmas. Okay, we had, like, if you think of like your parents getting a divorce, they're split in time, they're no longer going to be doing a combined Christmas. That's basically what you think of. Your guys' is just all rules are out the door for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, your guys' Christmases are just their own thing.
I always make fun of the fact, not necessarily make fun of, but I laugh at the fact that like half the time we'd be over there, and you'd remember this, Trav, we'd be over there just hanging out, and their mom was there, and then Mark would come out of the bedroom and he had no clue that she'd been there for hours.
It took me like a good year to determine the status of your family. So your parents are divorced? Because my parents are divorced and they're never together. Why are yours always around each other?
So
it's true. We do have a weird.
Can't blame us for having the traditional divorced parent Christmas, where each parent gives you Christmas and birthdays, and there's other things that go into it, but we're not gonna go into it on this podcast. So
that's true, though. If you think of it from a statistical standpoint, they say that like just over 50% of all couples get divorced, right? Here's 4 of us. You would think statistically 2 of us should have parents that are still married.
Well, but from
we do.
Are from the same
you
family.
Too.
Well, yeah. You got 2 sets
We have
of
the same parents,
here.
bro.
So basically, we're exactly how everything should be.
Yeah, if we were 4 random people, then technically.
All right, so that's enough of the divorce talk. We were trying to keep this more happy and light. So
I'm pretty sure we were
going
laughing the whole
into it,
time.
Like, you know, if you listen to our podcast, you know that we always come in with some kind of a fun introduction topic to bat around for a little bit before we get into the meat of things. Today, though, I have an introduction to the introduction really quick. So if you can tell, a lot of you, does anybody know what Cosmic Crisp is?
It's
You
an
wanna know
apple.
why?
Are you
Why
asking
I have
us
this
or the
apple
audience at
behind
home?
me?
Why
What?
it's called Cosmic Crisp?
Let's
Yeah.
pause for somebody else to answer who's listening.
We'll give it. One of those Zoom hackers comes in. He's like, "I'll tell you what it is."
Well, because Trav and you should definitely know what Cosmic Crisp apples are.
I should.
Yeah.
Now me? How do you not know?
Because
You want me to
Cosmic
answer?
Crisp apples
Are they like a Thanos thing?
were created in Washington, where you're from.
Well, I'm not from here. I live here. I spent the last 5 years here, but you know,
Where you're from. Where you were born and raised.
how did I meet all you guys growing up
So
here in
that was-
Washington?
That was the reason that I put this apple on, was because it was a tribute to Trav M, who's from Washington.
There's
State of Washington.
100 other
That's
things you
literally
could have
the
picked.
only reason why there's an apple in your background.
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole point.
So this is a premium apple that costs more than regular apples if you were to go to the store. Probably you'll be spending somewhere around $2.99 a pound for these suckers. But they're known to be very crisp, juicy, a little
Cosmic.
acidic, but also sweet. But I
That's
really
our
just
Washington
wanted-
slogan. Crisp,
And do
juicy,
you know
a
why
little
they're called
acidic, but also
Cosmic Crisp
sweet.
apples?
So really, that was pretty much it. I just wanted to see if you had these apples because I heard about them and I was like, oh, I really want one of those apples.
You should
guys
have known.
know-
Like, oh, sorry. Go ahead,
And I
Alan.
was like, I
You
wonder
guys
if
know why
Trav
they're called-
Michael has had them.
Do
What?
you know why they're called Cosmic Crisp apples?
Yeah, because they went and tested the apples like in a focus group, and some of the people in the focus group are like, ooh, like these little specks. Like if you can see the little specks, how to point them? Right there and right there. They thought they looked like stars, so they're like, oh, we should call them Cosmic Crisp because the apple that came before this was, guess what? You know what it was, Trav?
Granny Smith.
Red Delicious.
Honey
Honeydew.
cookies.
Oh, I'm so on my way there. I said
Come on,
honeydew,
guys,
which
you
isn't an
guys gotta
apple.
know your apple.
Honeydews.
Cantaloupe. Broccoli.
Just so you know, Danny, you weren't supposed to answer it. You were supposed to be like, no, why? And then I was supposed to give the answer. But
sorry. Are you
you stole my thunder. Huh?
Sorry.
Is that the real reason why they're called cosmic? Is because they have little stars on them?
Danny stole my thunder.
I think a lot of apples have.
Because I knew the answer.
So I think that's enough apple talk. That legit is why I put it on those, just to see if you've tried them, because I wanted to try them.
And
I'll look for them next time I'm at the store.
Yeah, I was hoping that if you were familiar with them, that you could like send me an apple.
No, I'll look for them next time I'm at the store, though. I won't send it to you, but I'll try it and tell you how I feel.
Well, that's rude.
I'll mail you an
I sent it
apple.
to you in the mail. I don't think it would be so crisp when it got to you.
Well, if you overnight it.
I'm not gonna overnight a $3
It's
apple.
still gonna be like thrown around. It's gonna count
roll it inside a box. More like cosmic applesauce, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a good tangent, but anyway, back to our actual introduction topic. So the question that I posed to everybody is, what would you do if $8.2 million suddenly showed up in your bank account? And did anybody click on the link in the show notes?
No.
No.
Read the article?
Nope.
No.
I read the headline.
So the reason that I came up with this question was because apparently some dude was looking for a stimulus check to come in the or to his money to come into his account. And so he goes to the ATM to check his balance. And when he gets his balance, he's like, I have over $8.2 million in my account. And he's
hang on. He goes to an ATM to check their balance.
He's right, though.
In
That is
this
a
day
good.
and age,
Makes this story a fake.
if you're going to the ATM to check your balance, I don't think you set up direct deposit. You're just getting a paper check.
Everything's under the table. He's got his cash under his mattress.
Good
He's
point.
surprised that he even has a bank account.
We might have already solved this and proved that this article is a fake, because he does. But according to the article, he goes to the ATM, checks his balance. He has over $8.2 million in his account. And he's like, I think that's wrong. Like, if you read the article, I think he legit is like, I don't think that's quite right. As if he's like, it might be off a couple
It's
bucks.
probably it's only supposed to be 7 million.
Let me go back and balance my checkbook first and see if this is
So he goes into his into the bank to ask them about it, like, hey, I just want to make sure, is this right? My balance correct and stuff? And they look into it really quick. And it turns out that his actual balance in his account was $13.69.
He's like, that's more like it.
So
why did it say 8
he said that he was pretty depressed because he went from being a millionaire to broke in 2 seconds.
He was already broke. I mean, it's not like he had money growing up and then lost it.
They couldn't throw him a finder's fee of $1 million just for telling him?
I think they should. Not $1 million, but I think they should give him $100,000 and say thanks.
Just because they caught the mistake. So yeah, but then he was excited because shortly after that, $1,700 was deposited to his account for a stimulus. And so
he has one kid.
He was able to withdraw $200.
So now he's got $1,713.69.
Well, actually, $1,513.69.
Yeah, I guess 15 because he's with your 200.
It's after he took out the
Yeah.
Well, he still has the 200. So total.
Who knows? He may have spent it on something.
Or maybe he spent it. Yeah, the ATM no longer can tell him that.
So your question is, would we tell anyone or would we spend it?
No, hang
I
on.
can tell
So
you
if you were in that situation, what would you do?
No, I of course
Well,
would say
first-
something because my fear would be that I don't say anything, and then I get like some government agency, whether it's, well, not just the IRS, I'm talking like secret ops,
like the feds,
like CIA.
Look,
CIA type stuff
who cares about
coming
the
at me,
feds?
bugging my house.
Well,
Because
just so
I
you
didn't
know
s-
that if it has to do with federal money or really the banking system in general, it's the feds.
Okay, the FBI would be coming my way.
Who cares about the FBI? The IRS took out Al Capone, so you
Well,
don't
that
mess
was
with
because
them.
he was doing tax evasion.
Yeah, but
Yep.
if this was the IRS that deposited the money for the
No.
stimulus,
Well, I am. Yeah, I don't
Isn't
like
the
the IRS.
Does the IRS do tax returns?
Yeah.
don't they?
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah, I think
Yes,
filed
they
with
do.
the
tax-
IRS.
They do tax returns.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
Internal
you're
Revenue
right.
Service.
I think that's their forte.
How do you guys not know this? This is like a
Do you
prime
not file
Barnes
your
topic.
taxes?
Like, if there was a thing that Barneses should know, it should
It's
be
everything about
what the
money.
IRS does.
And finances and
Since my dad worked for the IRS
Numbers.
for like 30 years.
Yeah, you guys have like a Facebook group that's all about like stocks and purchasing and stuff, and you're like, what does the IRS do? Is it
Yeah, and-
food and beverage services? Oh, yeah.
in none of those 13 years that your dad worked for them, you never said, "Hey, Dad, what are tax returns?"
No,
What
not
do-
like 13 years, like 30 years.
Oh, you said 30. In 30 years, you it's even worse.
All right, that's true. And now that I think about it, yeah, obviously, because I knew tax returns came from the IRS. But then I forgot for a second. And then I remembered again.
He remembered when
Riveting
he asked us
content.
and we told him that yes, they do.
Well, I was thinking about it and I forgot. I sat there for a minute and then, you know what? I remembered it again. Came back.
Danny's gonna be one of the
Yeah.
All right.
you can't
So,
you can't
anything else?
make this, you can't write this stuff.
Trav Cole would tell him and he would give it back. Trav
Yes.
Midell, what would you
No,
do?
I would also tell them. They would easily be able to track that. It's not like you could get away with it. I guess you could try and cash out some and run, but if you walked into the Chase Bank and were like, hey, I'd like to withdraw $8 million, please. You're not going anywhere. So the best you're getting out of that thing is probably maybe a few $100,000 to go on the run with. And then it's like, that's not enough to live off of. I vote. Give it back.
All right,
Gavel.
Alan.
Alan's disappearing to the Cayman Islands.
Why is he like alligator
I would.
crocodilian so much?
What?
If you're going to the Cayman Islands, why do you like crocodilian so much?
He's so dumb.
What the hell are you talking about?
Look at you derailed it. It's you're making it very difficult for Alan to answer with your silly questions.
He does this all the time to Alan. Alan can never get out a damn sentence.
I would just immediately launder the money. And
How are you
So
going to
that-
do that? Do you know the first thing about laundering money to like just
Yes.
quickly do it?
Like, would you
All you
use
need-
Tide or
all you
with
need-
bleach or without bleach?
all you need is a dry cleaner business.
Guys, don't even think
So
that.
I'm immediately going to go buy a dry cleaning.
What are you going to do when the government comes to you and is like, hey, we have to have money in
So
your
that's
account.
Alan's answer. Is he's immediately going to go buy a dry cleaning company.
He just ends up working the rest of his life just trying to pay off his dry cleaning company.
Actually,
I put a lot of years into this dry cleaning company. I got employees to pay. I got back taxes.
Actually, I'd probably have to buy quite a few dry cleaners to quickly launder that amount of money.
But why can't you? I mean, money is made out of cloth, technically.
Hey, Danny,
right?
your joke didn't work in the first place when you mentioned bleach. Stop trying.
No, I'm saying it's technically made out of cloth.
Yeah.
Why would you dry clean it instead of just regular clean it?
Okay, your joke.
Can we get to the real topic?
This could go on for ages.
This is why our episodes are 2 hours long.
That's why I said.
You gotta trim this down.
All right. So to play devil's advocate, I would probably
Don't act
quickly
like you haven't
open-
thought about this already for hours. Out
Yeah,
with it.
quickly. I would just quickly open a bunch of offshore accounts, and then I would just quickly transfer the funds. But they would be able to be trackable through ACH. So actually, I'd have to wire the funds, because once you wire funds, they can't get it back unless the person says it's okay. So,
Sorry. No, you went into banking expertise there.
You could buy up a bunch of Bitcoin and then sell all the Bitcoin, and it wouldn't be traceable.
I was just waiting. No, I mean, really, I just wanted to tell the story of the dude who found $8.2 million in his account. I thought it was kind of funny that he legit had $13.69. But
Kind of sad.
Thought his balance.
Let's laugh
might
at
be
the
a little
man
off.
at his tiny amount of money.
He thought he was rich.
Turned out he was just a little bitch. Just kidding.
Whoa.
All right. So we jump into our main topic and
Yes,
talk
please.
about some toys. Let's get serious and talk about some toys.
Okay.
Ellen,
He's switching.
All right, so my part's going to be pretty quick. I don't have that much to say. Like I said, have you seen my childhood? Hot Wheels.
you
is
spent
that what it
time with
was?
Michael Jackson at the
Huh?
Neverland camp.
So, growing up, I had these little toy airplanes, kind of like these. I don't think these are actually Hot Wheel brand, though. I
don't think so.
think
don't
they're
look like it.
die-cast flyers, like this. These are more like what I had. I remember almost these 4 exact airplanes. But I was obsessed with, where is it? The movie
Spoiler alert to all
Independence
the other
Day.
images.
I was obsessed with the movie Independence Day. But
Nothing but top quality production here.
I didn't have any Independence Day toys. So what I ended up doing was to make these little alien spaceships, I just drew them on a piece of paper and cut them out into the right shape. And then I used my little jet airplanes like those were Will Smith's airplane. And then I would be like,
Alan, I knew you when Independence Day came out, and I had no clue that this is what you had to do to have fun.
I imagine him with this little paper alien craft and his airplane's like, "Welcome to Earth."
But the whole Barnes household loves Independence Day, so we've talked about this ad nauseum on
it
this.
was one of the best movies.
I will say though, referring back to these, I bet because these are tiny, right? They're like smaller little things. They're not
Yeah.
like full size. Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet you stepped
Well, yeah,
on
because if they
those.
were full size, they probably wouldn't come in packages of 4.
Well, I didn't mean like full size, like a real jet. I meant like like action figure size.
They're yeah, these are actually 1/64th actual size.
Are they really 1/64th?
Yeah.
You're not just making that up to try and make a joke that's not funny?
No, they legit are.
Okay.
Hot Wheels and Matchbooks are all 1/64th of actual size.
Yeah, so I just imagined though, like, if you left these out, stepping on them because they're like so tiny and sharp would be so painful.
Like Home Alone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly what I was thinking.
You're like totally taking away from my topic now.
Oh, sorry.
Alan.
Sorry.
Well, maybe if you and Alan didn't, I guess we probably should have asked you guys if you guys have any other toys other than just some little die-cast
tiny
cars.
vehicles. You guys have any other toys besides tiny vehicles?
We did, but you guys took both of our toys that we were going to do. But this, can you see my cursor?
Mm-hmm.
This in particular, I had one with the wings that moved forward and backwards. That was my favorite. Mm-hmm.
Because when the wings went backwards, did the plane go faster?
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, punch it, Will. And it went faster.
Will, you're the
You
best
said-
friend I've ever had.
You said Poncho wheel?
Punch it, Will.
Danny,
Oh,
shut up!
Why would he say
thought he said-
Poncho, Will?
Poncho wheel. I
You
was like,
know
what
he
does
didn't say
that mean?
Poncho Will.
Poncho, Will.
Hey guys, I can just mute Danny's microphone. So
I think we should name this episode Poncho,
one
Will.
more dumb joke.
We should. Toys, and more Poncho wheels.
All right.
All right, so yeah,
Other than that, though, my other favorite, it wasn't really a toy, but to me it was, I had a Meade telescope growing up.
I actually remember that. I remember when you got that.
Really?
Yeah.
It was pretty sweet. It had the remote control right here where all you had to do was like align it with, say, the North Star so it knew exactly what it was pointing at. And then you could like tell it, go look at Saturn with this remote control, and it would just automatically. Bzzz.
See, that's why I'd be
That's
scared
pretty
if
cool.
I got that. Somebody would give me that and be like, yeah, I can do all these features just as long as you can align it up with the North Star. I'd be like,
do this
"Oh, man,
one thing.
where's the North Star?
No, I remember Alan, because I think we would come home, probably Trav would be there sometimes, and Alan would be out on our driveway, and he'd be using the telescope, and he'd be moving it to various objects in the sky, which I agree was really cool. For people who don't know Alan very well, astronomy is like his favorite thing in the world. He loves talking about or studying
You mean
about space.
Outside of the world.
Oh, outside of the world.
Danny
Wow,
joke
nice.
for you.
Well done, Trav. You're stepping up your game.
Yeah.
But I do remember two things. Alan, do you know what else this reminds me of, though? On
Do
a
I know
side
what?
tangent. What?
Do I know what?
What this telescope also reminds me of?
What?
It reminds me of
A poncho
candy-
wheel?
a candy corn shirt. Remember that shirt?
Again, Trav and I are so lost.
So confused.
And same
What is it?
same with maybe
90%.
two other people listening.
I had a candy corn shirt that I wore a lot.
Like it had little
When I
candy
was in
corns on
elementary.
it, or it was like full candy corn colored?
No, it was literally just had a picture of candy corn on it.
Just one. A single candy corn in the center. Got it. Okay. Tracking.
I got it for like Halloween once, and then I put it.
Sorry. I'm just picturing you going up to your dad and be like, Dad, I want to be an alien for Halloween. And he's like, just throws you a shirt with a candy corn on it.
Here, go with the candy corn.
That's your costume right there.
It was like that old Coke commercial. Like Alan was turned to walk away. He's like, "Hey kid," he like threw him a shirt and there's like a candy corn on. He's like, "Go with the candy corn."
No, let's just say I got invited last minute to like the popular kids Halloween party, and I had like an hour to get a costume, but there were no costumes left. So I just ended up getting a candy corn shirt and wore it. And I was just candy corn for
It
Halloween.
probably worked though, because you're like, it's ironic.
I wish I was smart enough at that age to just say that. It's ironic, guys. Think about it.
So is that all?
The thing that you're trick or treating for? Is that what the joke is?
I don't understand that question.
Danny doesn't get why you say it's ironic.
Oh, I don't know. I was like what you do, like when you're like in whenever the TV shows, like when Jim goes as like a 3-hole punch and he just puts like 3 dots on himself in the office and stuff. It just feels like what they'd say. I don't know.
I thought you were saying because like he's going as candy that he's trying to get from the other people.
No, that wasn't it.
Like I'm a candy corn trying to get candy corn.
No, I got it. You don't have to rehash it. I understand it. That's not it.
All right.
So, Alan, do you have anything from Hot Wheels or anything like that you wanted to play, or we get to move on? Or
I could play it.
Play it.
Where is it?
You would know.
New XP Racers Daytona 500 is huge. XP Racers Daytona 500. Hot Wheels with a motor inside. XP Racers got a motor inside.
That's all I'm going to play because it has nothing to do with the airplanes. This is all I could find that said Hot Wheels.
And without video, it really like took a drop off there.
Did you not see the video?
No, it's okay. I'm just saying, like, we were like listening to some staticky old commercial from probably the 1980s about Hot Wheels.
No, that was at least late 90s.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, 97 is what it was.
No, yeah, that was
It says it
definitely
in the title of the video.
Sweet. Well, yes, but I remember that, Alan. Your childhood was very sad.
He's like, it mirrored mine.
And with that transition, I'll jump into my own.
I was also there. So I'm going to talk about micro machines. Cue my slide.
We just get out of the slides. Now we got to go back in.
Hang on.
Just for everybody listening and watching, realize that we are not professionals.
Which slide? This one?
Yes, the micro machines picture. That's very teeny on the screen.
Yeah,
Bro,
you made the
micro
same mistake
I think that's
last
the size
time.
of the photo. Danny,
It kind of fits the theme. Micro machines.
When you Google it, just go to Tools and select Large Image, and
Yeah.
that way it'll be big.
I selected HD image, but
That won't.
Well, it can still be
too large.
HD.
It can be
Yeah.
HD in this.
I'm pretty
tiny.
sure when you zoom in, it's all really nice and clear.
I don't know. It looks pretty pixelated.
it does. But that was like the best one. I just figured that the best pictures they could take back in the 80s was.
That's as far as
There
I
you go.
did.
So yeah, anyway, I just remember micro machines from being a kid because, well, one, Home Alone was like the bomb of a movie when I was a child. And what did he do in the movie, guys, to help curb the bad guys at one point?
We already talked about it with Alex.
Oh, yeah. So we already talked about this. Bad guys stepped on Micro Machines, and they slipped on them by the stairs, if I remember right.
No. I thought it was like right inside the
No,
window.
the Micro Machines were by the stairs. By the window was all the ornaments.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
the broken ornaments.
That's true.
Anyway, so yeah, I liked Micro Machines a lot. Back to you, Jim.
The end.
Wait, this picture though, this is like a newer picture though, because there's like is that a little drone in the corner, like floating with the 4 wheels?
Right
Like,
here?
oh, sorry, my wife's turning the disposal. Hang on.
Oh yeah, that's like a old school concept Leonardo da Vinci came up with.
Oh, God.
Did you know that he came up with the helicopter?
Well,
Designed
sure.
it a long time ago, and then they actually made it.
Wasn't it more like a
up with
gyro? Like it was like a little seat that you sat in where you would like kind of pedal and it would spin above? I'm pretty sure that's the case because I think Batman used it, and I think they like borrowed that influence for Batman's one of his earlier devices in the early Golden Age comics.
Pretty sure
wait,
that I'm pretty
Leonardo
sure
da
that's all
Vinci
he
did?
could have come up with because they didn't have any gas engines or steam power back then. So human
Gotcha.
power is about the limit.
Mm-hmm. Muscle.
That's why people were trying to put like wings on their arms and flap.
All right,
Oh,
so
no.
Danny, you had Micro Machines.
Yeah.
Okay, so why? I mean, other than the fact from what we've talked about that the 2 topics that Trav and I have are kind of like the 2 favorites. So, I mean, I know that you guys have talked about Home Alone in the past. That like you guys used to like draw up like booby trap plans in your house, just like in Home Alone. I think we all did. But did you literally only want Micro Machines because of the movie, or did you get them for another purpose?
Well, to be honest, Trav, I got the Micro Machines because it also came with the little mini micro cities. And I enjoyed playing in the micro cities because it was an escape from my childhood.
Oh, jeez. I mean,
I thought you were
I
gonna
do
say
feel
it was
bad,
an
but you guys
escape.
have like made this a real dark. It's supposed to be like a fun, laughing. Like,
Your parents are
going to
listen to this and they're going to be like, what the hell did we do?
We weren't that bad. They got as many as 3 presents.
Their whole lives.
I was gonna say something, but it's too inappropriate.
But no, for real, like
It was an
Micro
escape
Machines.
from your
what?
micro dick.
Oh, man.
That was inappropriate. Why do you gotta pull it up a notch?
That you used with mini Jennifer Aniston.
Throwback to last episode.
But no, anyway, so Micro Machines I was just curious because the basic point of this episode is we obviously were going to reminisce a little bit about the toys that we had when we were younger, and then take that and kind of figure out where they came from, like what was the history behind that particular toy. And this is something that Trav are going to do a much, much better job of than Alan and I have been able to do because the 2 toys that we probably had the most influence from too were Ghostbusters and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And B, turns out, like I told these guys earlier, Micro Machines, this is the extent of their history that I could find after watching several YouTube videos and reading several articles and looking at the Wikipedia page. Apparently, Micro Machines were developed or created by this guy named Clemens V. Hayden Jr. in Wisconsin. He came up with Micro Machines because a company named Galoob, who used to make...
I remember Galoog.
Yeah, they used to make like A-Teens toys and different things like that. A-Teens, not A-Teens. A-Teens toys. They put out there like a toy fair. They said, hey, we would like to have some kind of like small vehicle toy like Hot Wheels or something like that. So he went back and he came up with this concept in his garage, and then he presented it to Galoob in 87, and Galoob right away was like, yes, we will buy it. He made like 24 concept cars, and they bought the rights to the concept right away. But the whole idea behind this, and this is how I knew that Hot Wheels were 1/64th the size of the actual things, is because he then took that concept and he made it so Micro Machines were anywhere from 1 in 148th to 160th of the size of the actual vehicles that he was creating or that they made. So if you have a tank, it's 1/148th this.
148.
1/48 of the size.
1/148.
Yeah, of the size. Or 1/160th of the size, but somewhere in that range. But then here's the thing is like, apparently the biggest thing about the history of Micro Machines is a dude named John Mashuda Jr., who apparently was he won like at the age of 12, the fastest speaking human award. And so he then ended up in a commercial in 1981 for FedEx that I guess apparently became like one of their most successful commercials ever. And then he got hired by Micro Machines. And so we don't have a sound clip of it here. But if you ever...
I know who he is, though.
Yeah, if you Google it or go on YouTube and look for him, you can see his commercials where he goes on there and he talks really, really fast. Like, Micro Machines, like throughout the whole thing. And then, then he advertises the Micro Machines. I think at the very end, he's like, if it doesn't say Micro Machines, it's not legit.
He trails off. If it doesn't say Micro Machines, then
He was trying to say it super fast, and that was the slowest you could possibly say it. If it doesn't say Micro Machines,
Well, you can just, oh boy, is it warm in here?
if it doesn't say Micro Machines, what's the line? I forgot the line. What's the line? I forget it.
What was it? If it doesn't say, Trav or Alan or anybody, if you guys remember, if it doesn't say Micro Machines, if it doesn't say Micro Machines, it's not the real thing. That's
I was gonna say, if it doesn't say
Seems
Micro Machines, it's a
fairly
hot
obvious.
It's not what I originally said. Where I said if it doesn't say Micro Machines, it's not legit.
I mean, I know I had a few Micro Machines. I was never really into like Hot Wheels and Micro Machines. I had some, but I never really got into it that much.
I'm the same.
Even now, like a lot of the kids that were like really into those types of toys, RC cars, like I always thought they were cool, but I just never really, if you put an RC car or a Hot Wheels and a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle or something like that in front of me, I was definitely going to lean towards the action figures than the cars. And like I was saying, like even today, like I know nothing about cars.
Yeah.
So I bought Trav and I bought 2005 Dodge
5.
with spoilers because we thought they would go faster.
And boy, did they.
You think Trav M would know a lot about cars, considering how many times he had to fix a Honda?
He wasn't the one. He knew
I know a lot about bearing emotional anger inside me.
I would say he probably knew enough to know exactly when something was wrong with his car.
Yeah, like
because it usually entailed flames coming out of
he used like sparking
the engine.
A Taco Bell drive-through, just trying to get myself a chalupa.
We need to do an episode of just Trav M.
We
telling
did.
his Honda saga.
Did we? I was gonna say,
We did.
we
It was when
We did do that.
you were sick, Al.
Oh yeah,
It was
yeah. Go back and give it a listen.
15.
Be sure to rank and review it on
it is
iTunes.
episode 15.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go
you
back
can
and listen to
you can
episode
listen
15.
to some if you're interested in Batman, or you're interested in what would you rather have in your life, or something like that.
As a lot of people are.
Or
Yeah, I remember. I actually did listen to it.
Trav's story.
Wait, did you talk about the bat in the car?
Yes, he did talk about the bat.
I remember you talking about your Batman Instagram posts.
That was at the beginning, section. And then the very last topic was him telling us about the car. But so yeah, I just never had those types of toys, or at least a lot of them. But I do find, the micro machines, because I think, and I'd have to check on this, so I could be just sprouting this out of nowhere, but the girls had Polly Pockets. Yeah, that was was super popular. Pockets. It's even still popular today. It's kind of resurfaced, and they're doing all new.
Yeah, I saw those with Polly Pockets the other day.
But for guys, later on, I think they had something kind of similar, but that was our Polly Pocket. Was Micro Machines.
How do you spell Polly Pocket?
Was Polly Pockets though the same time as Micro Machines?
Well, that's what I was wondering. I know they're pretty old.
Polly Pockets are?
Yes.
Polly Pockets I don't recall before the 90s. I feel like they were like a 90s toy. Polly Pockets. Yeah. Maybe late 80s, like Cabbage Patch Doll type of stuff.
Yeah. I don't remember at all. I can't remember, because I know Micro Machines, according to my research here, came out in 1987. But
really, that was when they premiered in
1983.
Oh,
1983.
Okay, so that makes sense. But I remember. I think the reason that I even got my first Micro Machines, they were probably influenced by the Home Alone movie. But this isn't to be sad per se. It's just a story, but it's a true story. But sometimes my parents would get in arguments, and the way that my mom would get back at my dad is she would take us to Toys R Us.
I remember you telling me that too.
Yeah.
And I told you to call me up next time they got in an argument.
And she would spend a bunch of money on us at Toys R Us. So to us, we were like, yes, this is the best day ever.
Well, definitely.
This will never lead to divorce.
Definitely teaching you guys the wrong message, but.
Well, no, I remember she would be like, go nuts, kids. Anything you want. And then I picked out something pretty expensive, and she'd be like, that's a little too much. Scale it back a bit.
Yeah,
but I think have a power wheel.
One of those times I bought an entire Micro Machines city, but it was I think it was more like a volcano that opened up, and then there was an entire city track in there or something.
I think I remember those. Yeah, I did like the play sets. All those were really cool.
You guys have spent this whole podcast complaining about how you didn't have any Christmas presents and you only had one toy, and then you dropped some story at the end about how your parents would take you to Toys R Us whenever they fought. Buy whatever you wanted.
And have a freaking supermarket.
You know what? That never happened to me.
Yeah.
When my parents fought, we just cried. That's
yeah. We went and hid in the room so that we wouldn't have to hear it.
Hey, if you ever tasted our toys, they were pretty salty because they were covered in tears.
Yeah, so I think after Micro Machines the actual toys were big, they kind of blew up as far as a video game. I never played the Micro Machines video game, but something else that apparently in the history of Micro Machines is pretty big. But here's the big news. I should have had a news sounder, what's that sounder?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, for here's the crucial updates. Micro Machines are coming back in 2020.
Oh.
So I decided after all of this, I need to work on my acting skills.
Were you putting on a performance there?
I
just thought you were telling us news. I didn't realize you were I didn't know if you were secretly hoping for oh my gosh, you really moved me with that performance as the newsman telling us that 2020 was going to feature new Micro Machines.
See, and I thought he was going to say, I've realized after all this, I want to go buy more Micro Machines.
That's what I thought too. That's
But
what I thought.
instead, he goes off and is like, I need to be a better actor.
You know what I should have done instead was Tamagotchis.
Tamagotchis.
I forgot
Tamagotchi.
about those until now.
That was
Next
That would have
time.
been exciting.
You can
Did you
give
have a
the sequel.
Tamagotchi?
Hmm?
Did you have a Tamagotchi?
Yeah.
I thought
Did you
Tamagotchis
not?
were for girls.
No.
You're for girls. Well,
I had a Tamagotchi.
Whoa, Chav-M. Whoa.
Wait, what were Tamagotchis? Wasn't that like the little pets on digital
Yeah,
pets?
the digital,
Yeah.
like the digipets, like the digital pets.
Yeah.
never had one. I remember you
Yeah.
had one, Trav, right? Didn't you have a Tamagotchi?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe
I
they were.
never knew how to like keep them alive though.
You had to
I
feed them.
killed them.
And
all
now you
the
have children.
time. Hey, they're still here. I can't promise that they'll make it through the pandemic, but
Trav Cole's
here.
like, I'm winning the Tamagotchi game. They're like, what do you mean you're winning? Like, I have gone through 78 Tamagotchis in 4 days.
I've
No one
killed
else
them
has gone
all.
through this many.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Tamagotchi.
All right. Should we move on?
Yeah,
let's
let's
get
move
into the
on to
good
the
stuff.
My
Sorry
computer
for-
battery's at 46%. So I was at 100 when we started this. So we've gone through 50% of battery. So I may have to leave and get my cord at some point.
Who's up next?
I think
Trav.
it's me.
My
I think it's me.
Ghostbusters?
Ghostbusters. Who you gonna call? Ooh, look at that image. Okay, so
Hang on.
oh.
It kind of dies down.
Whatever Alan did before, it worked a lot better, but apparently it doesn't work so well anymore.
What doesn't?
It just
The
kind of
music.
cut out, but that's okay.
It
It's
cut out
cool,
and we
it's
just
cool.
watched you dance to silence.
Oh, it did?
So
Is that
anyway, I think we're
Ghostbusters! Okay. Did that not work?
it was good. It's good. We
All
can
right.
we're good with it. It's good. Yeah, so I did Ghostbusters. So Alan, if you go back one slide where you were before 2 seconds ago, yeah, this one. So basically what we're going to find in this discourse on Ghostbusters is that we have two kinds of Ghostbuster toys that you can find out there. The first is like ones based off the movie, which is like the actual actors, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis and all that. And then the second ones, and the more popular ones that you see more of, is the next slide there where you were. Yeah, this guy, which is the real Ghostbusters, the animated cartoon. And so, do any of you guys know why it's called the real Ghostbusters? Trav, I think
I
you
do.
I bet you do, buddy.
Can I
Go
take
ahead
a
and
guess?
tell me. Yeah, take a guess.
Because this is my remembrance. My memory is because Ghostbusters was like a skit on Saturday Night Live, and they somehow from that became the real Ghostbusters because they didn't want to be mistaken for like the not real Ghostbusters.
But
There
who were the
was-
not real Ghostbusters?
Other
Bill
Saturday
Murray,
Night
Dan
Live.
Aykroyd.
No.
No.
That was a good
Lady
guess,
on.
Andy. I'll correct a few things, like how Ghostbusters wasn't on Saturday Night Live. You're thinking of the Blues Brothers, which
Oh.
is
Wait,
Dan
I thought that
Aykroyd.
they did a skit on Saturday Night Live.
No, just because Dan Aykroyd, yes, he was, he was on Saturday Night Live, but they never did Ghostbusters as a skit. He wrote that out.
Yeah, so what happened was with the movie is Dan Aykroyd and what's the guy who
Harold
passed
Ramis.
away? No, not
Harold
Harold Ramis. He was the Blues Brother.
Oh, John Belushi.
John Belushi. Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi did Blues Brothers together, and
Yeah.
it was fairly successful, not like huge, but Dan Aykroyd wanted to do another one with John Belushi that he called Ghost Chasers, which featured him and John Belushi as a team. And essentially in this world, ghost busting, or the idea of chasing ghosts, is like way more common. And so there'd be a bunch of different Ghostbuster teams, and him and John Belushi were kind of like the screw-up Ghostbuster team. And they'd be like out there causing trouble, trying to like earn a reputation for themselves. And they somehow end up in this other dimension, and they'd be all over the place. And it was like a very crazy thing. And then John Belushi died from the overdose. And like Dan Aykroyd was so distraught because John Belushi was like his best friend. He like put the screenplay away for like 5 years or something like that, and then brought it back out and decided to revamp it. And with the help of Harold Ramis, turned it into what is now the Ghostbusters that we know and love, but by completely basically revamping the whole idea, which none of this has anything to do with why the cartoon is called The Real Ghostbusters.
Exactly.
So Trav,
was there another knockoff Ghostbusters?
It wasn't a knockoff.
Is Slimer supposed to be John Belushi's ghost?
no. Trav, why is it called The Real Ghostbusters?
So there was a commercial. There was an original cartoon completely separate from what the Real Ghostbusters became. That was a team of guys who would go out, who'd get calls to go to like, mansions and different like locations because they're being haunted by ghosts, and they were supposed to get rid of them. And it was like these two guys and this big old gorilla.
Yep, the gorilla.
And a car that could talk.
What?
It's by Filmation Animation, which
Yeah.
is like pretty renowned for being one of the like cheaper, quicker output animation companies of the 60s and 70s. And they own the rights to the name Ghostbusters. And so when they made the movie, they had to go to Filmation and get permission. And Filmation gave permission, no problem, because it was like a live action movie with actors. It was totally different. But the cartoon was too close. So in order to differentiate it, they called it The Real Ghostbusters.
Oh. Do they still have to pay any like
Well,
rights
no, they
fees or
didn't have
anything?
to pay royalties, I don't think, right, Trav?
No, they
Because-
just borrowed the use of the name. I don't know, honestly. That's a good question, Danny. I have no idea.
Because they
where it
still
stands
use
now.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I think they probably would have that.
Actually, you know what? I
perpetuity
remember reading about this a while ago. I think they did have to give him some type of a percentage. It was pretty small. But the throwing the real in there was just really a smack in the face, because they went to ask them if they could purchase the name outright from them, and they refused.
And they actually
So-
started the cartoon back up again.
That's right.
Right after the movie. So the movie
They
came
did.
out in 84, and 85 they released the cartoon Ghostbusters. And then the real Ghostbusters didn't come out till 86 or 87, I think. It was
Ah.
86.
Well, I remember watching the real Ghostbusters on Saturday mornings. Probably like from like 88 to 90, 91 range. Does that fit the range
Yeah.
that they wrong?
Yeah, it ran 86 to 92, I think.
2, yeah.
91, 92. It was like 7 seasons.
Which, and I don't know if they've changed it. It was on Netflix. The whole series was on Netflix.
Really? I didn't know that. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
The real
Yeah, I
Um,
gotta look for that then.
They had so it's interesting though, because it goes even further. So the reason there are no Ghostbusters toys from the movie from the 80s, even though the movie was like one of the biggest hits of the year, is because movie theater, like at the time, like basing a toy series off a movie was like a huge risk like that. They had no idea that Ghostbusters was going to be that big. So they had nothing prepped, no t-shirts, no merchandise, nothing. And then the movie aired and it was huge. And so they decided to do the cartoon. And then they, in order to not have to pay like Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and all those guys likeness rights, they changed them enough, which is why none of these guys look really like the actors. I mean, there's like similarities and like passing resemblance.
Winston's like, hey, man, I mean, he's black, I'm black. How many more similarities do you need?
Like he's
One
influenced by
black guy
somebody
with
else.
3 white guys.
But they
Well, no,
like,
I was gonna say if they were two separate entities, like the movie and the cartoon were supposed to be separate, isn't like it a infringement on what's it called? To have like they have proton packs, obviously.
No,
They have
you're
the
thinking of
exact
the
same
other one.
logo.
So this one is what you see here. The real Ghostbusters is it was like a sequel series to the movie. So this was based off the same characters. They just didn't want to pay likeness rights, and so they all have the same names. They're like Peter Venkman and Ray Stantz and all that.
Okay.
They just didn't want to use the names. Or, I mean, the appearance.
So just in case you guys didn't know, because I did go back and I rewatched all, and obviously I wouldn't have caught this back when I was a kid. I'm just watching it because it's a cartoon. But it is, because Trav said it's kind of like a sequel series. Like they do have an episode where it is directly right after the first movie ends, and it's an introduction about how Slimer comes to be, like their buddy.
Yeah, it's like it's written by J. Michael Straczynski, who's like a famous science fiction comic book writer who wrote that episode. Yeah, so Slimer even wasn't named Slimer from the movie. They named him Slimer in the TV show. He had no name in the movie. He was just Green Ghost, and then they named him Slimer here. But anyway, this is all a huge tangent to say that the majority of toys you see for the first 25 years of Ghostbusters history, not even the majority, every toy you see from Ghostbusters for the first 25 years is based off of the cartoon and not off of the movie.
Do we need the next slide?
Basically, every toy from like 2010 was based off the cartoon.
Yeah, 2009. The 25th anniversary, they actually was the first time they used the actors, which we'll get to that in a minute. But go to the next slide, Alan. So these are just some early like examples of the ads, and so you can see like Egon, who's riding on the top of the thing, has his blonde hair with his curls and all that kind of stuff, which is funny because Harold Ramis, who played him, said that when the sequel came out, Ghostbusters 2, that kids were wondering why he didn't have blonde hair because the cartoon had become so big in the time from, because the sequel didn't come out till like 91, I think, or 90 maybe. And so it was like 5 or 6 years in between those movies. And so the amount of time had passed enough that kids were more familiar with these Ghostbusters than they were with
the actual movie.
The actual movie. And so like Harold Ramis is like quoted as saying like people wondered why he didn't have blonde hair. So anyway, there's the car. You can go to the next one.
So Ghostbusters 2 came out in 1989.
Oh, 89? Okay, so it would have been 5 years.
There's still 5 years, yeah.
Yeah, which is still a lengthy amount of time, but yeah.
No, yeah. Because I remember I never saw Ghostbusters 1 in the theaters because I would have been 2. You guys probably wouldn't have been alive or very close to that.
You would have been born that year. Travis.
Yeah, and Alan would have not been born yet. But I remember going to Ghostbusters 2 with my dad because my parents got in a fight. Like,
they got in a fight every day.
I know how this sounds, but this is for real. Like, they got in a
why they got divorced.
And my dad took my brother Steve and I believe, with him out of the house, and he's like, "Do you know what? We're gonna go see this Ghostbusters 2 movie." And we're like, "Oh yeah!" And then it was like a big deal because I was only 6 at the time. So
with that apple behind you and you saying, "Oh yeah," it really reminded me of the Kool-Aid guy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then to answer your other question, Trav, Cole, Ghostbusters was removed from Netflix last year in 2018.
No. Okay.
Bummer.
Yeah,
Bummer.
I just searched for it and it didn't come up.
It'll show up somewhere else. They like all just rotate through those services. So this slide here, this is the Ghostbusters base, their firehouse. I have this still upstairs. I didn't bring it down here.
Really?
But I do have it. Yep. So one of the doors is broken.
Does it have a pole in it?
Which are harder to come by. So yeah. So now I brought some stuff. I turned off my camera so you guys could see. So this is, I think it's the next slide, Alan. Is it the next slide? Yeah, this is the Fearsome Flesh. He is one of the toys where this like scarred me for pooping as a child. Because it's like, for those of you who aren't watching the video, like it's a toilet that when you like lift up the seat, it has like a face inside it and a tongue comes out, which is a terrifying experience to imagine if you're sitting on that a tongue is like, "Bloop,
I don't
hello."
know. That could be better than a bidet.
But I think what makes
the
Ghostbusters
tongue comes out.
hello, I see. Yeah, it's a coronavirus solution. Like, I know toilet paper scares
Yeah,
people. Allow me
exactly.
to assist. So, what's great about Ghostbusters toys? So, the original toys, I brought a few of them over here. So, the original series came out with just the main guys, basically. So, you would have them just in their basic uniforms, and they came with a proton pack, and then they came with a ghost. Where is this other guy? Where's Winston? Winston. Oh, here he is. They came with a ghost that you could put on their head.
Why is Winston always the last one to show up?
Because he was the one that had the head ghost still. So you had these ghosts that you could like put on their head, and then they could like kind of see through, and they'd be possessed.
So wait, was there a Winston?
Oh.
So before the movies, there was a cartoon.
No.
No.
The cartoon came
after.
after the movie.
There was a
Okay,
cartoon
I'm
called
just very confused
Ghostbusters. There's a cartoon called Ghostbusters, but it has nothing to do with this series.
Yeah.
Why did Winston show up in the second Ghostbusters movie? Like, did
Well,
they?
he's in
He
the
was
first
in the first one.
He
He
showed up
was?
at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They hired him in the first one because they were
Because they
looking
needed
for
extra
help.
help.
Okay.
They were too
I just
busy.
thought like writing the second one, they were like, we need more diversity.
No, he's
No.
in it the whole time.
He's into the first one. Yeah, he gets hired like halfway through.
I need to rewatch it.
It's kind of interesting how much of a difference there is between 1982 and Babies and 1986 Babies. Like
Are you talking about us or Alan and you?
Alan and me, like,
Oh, okay.
because I feel like we grew up, we did grow up in the same house, obviously, but it's just been interesting talking about some of these nostalgic subjects over the course of the podcast to see just how much that he wasn't old enough to remember per se. And like, it just doesn't feel like, because I'm like, oh, well, you were there, but he probably was like 2 or 1, you know?
Or I was still a ghost in the spirit world.
Yeah.
Speaking of ghosts, nice transition. Back
Well, now
into this.
talking to my nephew Kai, who's 14, the same stuff happens. Like me and Dan will talk about like the good old days of the jazz in the 90s. And then, well, Kai still knows all about him somehow because of all the footage you can look up and stuff. But
sure, he knows as much about like the old teams as like most people our age.
yeah. And well, me and Danny will be talking about it, and I'll be like, oh yeah, you weren't even alive, Kai. But then he knows more about it basically than I do.
I do have to ask Trav Mydell one question though, as you're showing us these toys. Did you recently purchase these toys, or did you literally have these toys from when you were a kid?
Oh, I had these toys when I'm a kid.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
You
No, I
took
said I
them
got a
all the
bucket
way
of.
to Washington, huh?
All the way to Washington, Cosmic.
Where you're
Crisp.
from?
Where I'm from, where I was born and raised.
You should say every time you introduce yourself, you should just be like, "Hey, I'm from Washington, home of Cosmic Crisp apples."
I was born here, and ever since I was a kid, I've been having Cosmic Crisps. So anyway, a couple other toys to show you before I toss it over to Trav Cole for turtles.
We need another slide.
Nope, we're okay for a minute. So because Ghostbusters, so unlike Turtles, which you're about to see from Trav, like Turtles had like reoccurring villains and repeats, but Ghostbusters didn't have that. Obviously, it was all just ghosts. So like 90% of their toys are just like made up toys that had nothing to do with the show or the movie. But they had these ones that I can't remember the name of them, but they're like scare humans or something like that. But they'd be like regular looking humans. So it's like a mailman, but then you'd like lift him up and you'd be like, I'm a ghost.
What?
In his belly. Yeah. And then they had like this old woman here. Hold on, let me get her ready for her. So she'd be like this.
I remember her.
And then she like opens and she's like, ah. She'd had another gross tongue. They really like gross tongues. Oh, her neck comes up too.
See, but here's the great thing, as we're gonna be kind of talking about in mine too. Like the world of toys, it's all about, you know, what having a variety of options, because having just one thing to sell is never going to make a lot of money, because there's only so, like I was talking to you guys about just kind of a small strange tangent, but you know, before Power Rangers became a thing, Stan Lee actually has a big part in Power Rangers becoming a big thing. And
Oh, he does?
he does. It's well, because he got a hold of one of the videos that, you know, some Japanese company was making, and thought it was amazing, and he offered them the ability to use Spider-Man. And so Spider-Man actually was technically a Power Ranger, but it was just him fighting these monsters, and they could only sell Spider-Man in so many different ways. So you have a franchise like Ghostbusters where you have 4 main characters, and then you have the ability to, I mean, their bad guys are ghosts. You can make up whatever, and kids will buy it up, because obviously we all did.
Well, I think that too, and like the benefit that you have in having a long-running cartoon like Ghostbusters and like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had, is you have all these episodes to incorporate new villains or new characters. You're not tied to like a sequel movie or something like that.
Yeah.
Either. So, like, because all those toys that you're showing, there was an episode, right, with like that toilet, if I remember right.
I don't know, Trav. Do you remember an episode of the toilet?
I don't remember an episode with the toilet, but
It could be though. It could be, honestly. Like there's 140 episodes or something like that. It's quite a few. So
I actually had an episode with the toilet this morning.
So this is the last one. This is the last classic Ghostbuster toy I'm going to show. So this is my favorite one. He was a football guy.
I love that guy. I had that guy.
Yeah, and he like you bend him over, and his like he like comes alive. Like you want a secret, and they're like, "What?" He's like, "I'm a ghost." And they're like, "Whatever, prove it to us." And he's like, "Okay." Like, what are you doing?
Look at my butt.
But it's interesting because the toys like that you're showing us, if I didn't know any better, if you didn't tell me like I'm showing you Ghostbusters toy, I would assume it had more to do with monsters than ghosts.
Well, that's actually like they do have a bunch of like monster toys that they put out that were like a monster series. It was just like classic like werewolf, hunchback, Dracula, Frankenstein.
And those were considered Ghostbuster toys?
They were all Ghostbuster toys. It was a part of the monster series. And so you would get these toys.
That's just
see, but that's kind of the whole point. Is it didn't matter. It was adjacent, you know, to what they were doing. It was all kind of a part of that whole universe that they could use that type of stuff and sell.
Mm-hmm.
We did have this one. So this guy, he like sets up like a spring trap, and his like super sharp teeth will like, if you like push his tongue down, it like stabs you in the fingers. It's not too painful, but it's also not super pleasant. So
better not be, or else looking at tons of lawsuits.
Yeah,
kids.
All right, looking at this, it looks like the Phantom Flush toilet was actually a part of a Ghostbusters video game. So that's just another spot where they can create more characters.
Borrow more stuff, yeah, and change around.
Yeah.
Alan, could you go back to your shared screen for a second? So they did all this Ghostbusters stuff, and then after this series, so past Fearsome Flush, past this guy, that's a cool picture, but I don't have anything to say.
Go past this?
Yeah, go past it. This is like, Trev, do you remember this show?
Yeah.
So this is like, it's called Extreme Ghostbusters, and it came out in like 95 and ran for one season. And it was like their attempt to bring the show back. So it's like a sequel series. So the only returning character is Egon on the far right there with his ponytail. And he like mentors a new group of students. And so they all got action figures except for the guy on the far left because he was in a wheelchair. And the toy company didn't think that people wanted to buy toys of someone in a wheelchair. And so he never got a toy. And so
I think I actually remember that cartoon though, because now that it was the wheelchair that reminded me of it. Now that you say that,
yeah, it was actually a pretty good cartoon, and they actually have a pretty fun style and everything. But it was interesting.
So they made Egon older, and they even made Slimer older.
Yeah, even Slimer gets aged. Well, Egon, Slimer, and Trav, what's her name? Janice? Is that how you say it? Janine. They bring back Janine, and she's in this as well. And she's like, but they like upped her sexiness. Like that was a distinct quote when I was reading up on this. They're like, we wanted Janine to be sexy in this one, and so she's like shorter skirts and a little bit more flirtatious and stuff than she was in past ones.
Wasn't Janine already like in her middle ages in the first one? So when she was.
Are you talking like the movie or the cartoon?
Both, I thought.
No, in the cartoon, she's younger.
Even in the movie, I think she's younger. I just think the 80s style gives her an older.
Yeah, the 80s style plus her voice and the glasses.
Yeah, she had like a nasally voice.
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
80.
Because I took her to be like in her 40s in the movie, but maybe that's just because of the style, like you said.
I think she was like at the latest, probably early 30s in that, but.
All right, so last, I want to give Trav time to talk about turtles. So next slide, Alan. So like, as I said, like, that's one of the toys from Extreme Ghostbusters. No wheelchair access. Next.
Yeah, how did he get in the car?
I don't know,
cartoon?
Man. I don't know. He just appeared in the car using movie magic. Next slide over. So these are the first sets of figures that came out in 2009, the 25th anniversary. They were based on the actual likeness of the characters.
It's clearly Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis,
Apparently no Winston.
No Winston, no Bill Murray, actually, because Bill Murray he took the longest to secure his rights because he's so tricky to work with.
He is a tricky dude.
Which is funny. Which brings me to my last thing. So that's pretty much it with Ghostbusters history as far as, and since then, since the 25th anniversary, they've blown up and you can get them as Legos and everything under the sun with the original Ghostbusters or the TV shows still kind of hopping. But the funny thing I saw when I was researching, since I knew this, but I wanted to confirm it for the podcast, and I did confirm it to be true, is so the original voice of Peter Venkman in the cartoon was a guy named Lorenzo Music. And he was the voice of Garfield.
Garfield, right? Yeah.
Right, yes.
But it changed partway through.
It changed partway through because Bill Murray wanted his guy to sound more like him. So they changed to, what's his name? Uncle Joey from Full House, Dave Coulier.
Oh, yeah.
And so he became Bill Murray. But the funny thing is, yeah. But the funny thing is like, so Lorenzo Music is the voice of Garfield the cartoon and the voice of Peter Venkman the cartoon. And then flash forward like 25 years, and Bill Murray was the voice of Garfield in the movie.
In the movie that he regrets.
But do you know how he got in that movie? Like why he ended up in Garfield?
No.
Is because so Bill Murray doesn't have an agent. You just call his house. He has a number you call. You like leave your description in a voicemail. And he, the guy who wrote Garfield is named Joel Cohen, but it's Cohen with an H, not Joel Cohen from the Cohen brothers. And so when he heard Joel Cohen is the writer, he thought like Fargo, that Cohen. And he's like, oh, I'll totally do it. And he like signed up for it. And then turns out it's like the guy who wrote Cheaper by the Dozen Is that's the joke. And so like Bill Murray was like talking, they like interviewed him and he was like, yeah, like I got to set and I realized it wasn't the right Joe Cullen and I had to like go back and like do all this voice dubbing to try and like pump up the script and everything, and it was like this nightmare situation. He's like, I was just came out of the booth just sweating from trying to make things work with like desperation. So anyway,
Is this why in that Zombieland, is that what it's called?
yeah,
Where he's always like poking fun at the Garfield movies.
yeah. When he's like, do you have any regrets?
Garfield.
Maybe.
Right before he dies. All right,
That's
cool.
Is he in the second Zombieland?
Bill
Yeah,
Murray?
in the beginning.
Yeah. No, the end. He shows up in the credits.
I haven't seen the second yet.
It's pretty funny because that's where they show him like what happened to like everybody around him is going crazy, and then he suddenly like he's just walking through that.
I think he's being interviewed for Garfield 3. Like
that's
like,
what it was.
And then they like the zombies come during that. So
he's being interviewed by Al Roker, isn't he?
yeah, there's a couple guys. There's like a famous podcaster there too. So
yeah, no,
right.
I mean, to finish up on Ghostbusters, my favorite Ghostbuster toy that I remember was we actually had the trap that you could slide.
Oh, we had that too, yeah.
And then you would push on like the air pump kind of thing, and they would force the trap doors to open with your foot on, and it was like a cord that went about 10 feet or whatever, so you could pretend to catch ghosts.
Yeah, if you still would have had that, you would have had something special.
Yeah, nobody had it. Those are so hard.
You can't. Like, I mean, the firehouse is hard enough to find. Trav was lucky enough because he had one. Don't know what happened to the original one you had.
My mom got rid of it.
But then Trav, when he was living in Chicago, found a toy store and they had one, and he was able to purchase it from there.
No, I didn't. That's not even how it happened. Like I found the toy store was too expensive, and I was telling my friend about it, and he was like, "Oh, I've got it. You can have mine." And he gave me his. So
he just gave it to you?
He just gave it to me.
Dang.
He showed up at my house one day and was like, "Here, have this Ghostbusters." And I was like, "You know, this is worth like $300." And he's like, "Yeah, no, I don't care." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "I just want it out of my." He's like, "I don't need it. It takes a lot of space." So,
Danny, how come you don't ever give me anything?
Next time I find a firehouse in my house,
you know what to do.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to some turtles. I've been dying.
Turtle time.
Turtle time.
Hour.
There they are.
it's great. It's a great.
I don't even know like what iteration that is. Like,
I think it's like the movie one, isn't it?
Is that like a cartoon style movie one?
Yeah, because Ralph's
again,
got that
for
weird
everybody
bandana.
who's not watching us on YouTube, Alan's got up a picture of the turtles, but it's definitely not the original.
It says it's more like 27s at the
Hang
top.
on, do you want the song?
Yeah, go for the song. Heroes in a half shell, turtle power. So, all right. Well, let's just kind of jump into this. You can get out of slides, Al. I don't have any other slides. So,
You didn't even have that one, technically.
I didn't even have that one. I think that was one that Danny threw in, or Alan found.
I came up with all the pictures that I found were like probably one of the top 5 Google hits because I was trying to hurry.
It's the attention to detail like that makes this podcast what it is.
So, as I start this, have a couple of questions. See, if you hadn't listened to our episode 15, one thing that you should know about Travis Mydell is the fact that he knows pretty much all about comics and just, I mean, from Marvel who he is. I know who he is now.
Creator of Captain America.
Yeah.
Isn't he like that
comes the
puffy
joke.
pink character?
That's
That's
Kirby.
Kirby.
Oh.
Just
Not
plain
Jack Kirby.
And he's fictional. Jack Kirby's a real person.
I thought it was like a character in a comic
Without
book.
Jack Kirby, there would be no Turtles, even though he has nothing to do with the comics of the Turtles. And that's just mostly because the two creators, which are Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, they both were pretty big fans of his, specifically Kevin Eastman. And these two guys met in New Hampshire. I think Kevin was like a bagger at some grocery store. Peter actually was doing some art, but it was like he was drawing some cartoon characters for some local newspaper. So nothing big. He said in an interview he didn't like what he was doing because he'd always have to draw pictures of like a tomato plant. He's like, I don't care about a tomato plant. And somehow they met, and Peter invited Kevin over to hang out or something, and he had an original drawing of from Jack Kirby framed in his house. And I think that was like right then when they realized, like, holy crap, you like the same stuff I do. And so then they got an apartment together and created a comic art studio called Mirage Studios, which was pretty much everything that they have done to get them to fame and fortune has all been one giant joke. Mirage Studios was a joke because they didn't think that anybody would even notice them. And that if they did, they would just be gone really quick.
Like, what do you mean wouldn't even notice them?
Like a mirage.
Like a mirage. I mean, you notice it, like, I mean, it's there and then it's gone, right? Like,
but I mean, like, okay, so naming their studio Mirage Studios, like they were just never planning on actually doing anything?
No, I mean, they were drawing stuff. They wanted to be big, but the way that they are, and the people that they are, is just that it was a joke. It's like if we were to create some company and, you know, use a pun or something that was close to us or some inside joke that nobody else would understand.
Yeah, gotcha.
So that's what they ended up doing. And just one night, I think that, well, the first attempt at becoming famous for drawing comics or creating comics was a comic called, and a character called the Fugitoid, which was just some robot. And they like sent it around to a bunch of publishers and stuff, and they just basically got laughed at. But and then one day they were just sitting there, you know, just goofing around, and Kevin was drawing something. He wanted to make his buddy laugh, and so he drew a turtle with like a bandana on and had some nunchucks. And then Peter took it, he laughed at it, he drew his own iteration of it, and then passed it back. And then Kevin looked at it and he laughed. And then he was like, you know what, I'm going to one-up you and I'm going to draw 4 of them. So he drew 4 of them, and they all had different types of, you know, weapons, which we all know that they have today. And that just was really kind of the beginning of it. And it was a 100% joke. It was not meant, they were not at all trying to come up with something new. They were just doodling and laughing. And that's how it started.
So what year was this roughly?
Sorry, what?
What year was this?
This is early 80s. I didn't get an exact year because I wasn't really going for the comics as much as I was going for the toys. So,
were you going to mention, I don't want to step on your toes, were you going to mention Daredevil at all or anything like that?
I didn't write it down, but I was going to kind of segue into that, which you can kind of help me because I don't know 100% the story behind it necessarily. But so, again, their first comic that they came out with, they did plan on making a second issue. It was their one and done. And I think it was just kind of on the tails of the fact that they just thought that they had something kind of cool and wanted to create a backstory to these turtles. And so the backstory of it is making fun of Daredevil. So,
because Daredevil like was exposed to that chemical or whatever.
Yeah. So like in the very beginnings of the comic, and I have it actually in my closet here, but some guys walking across the street and some van or something swerves, and this chemical falls out the back and hits him in the face. And then so that is supposedly the origins of Daredevil. But then what they do is they take the fact like, okay, well, what happened to that stuff after it hit him in the face? So it came, it fell, it hit the ground, it broke open. There was these turtles in the sewer that got all over them, and they became the Ninja Turtles. So
they were saying that the same chemical that made Daredevil made the turtles into turtles.
Yes.
Crossover.
Yeah.
There was like, but the powers that the turtles have isn't anything like what Daredevil.
That's the whole point. Is that there was not supposed to be any rhyme or reason to it. It was a complete and total joke.
Oh.
Well, they actually like the whole name of them is a play on the 3 top-selling comics at the same time. So Teen Titans, Daredevil, and the New Mutants, X-Men were one of the top 3 selling comics. So they were like, well, if we take a little bit of all of those and put them all into the title, so it was Teenage from Teen Titans, Mutant from the New Mutants, and then Ninja from Daredevil, and then we'll just add in our own little element of Turtles to make it unique. And so it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then they spoofed off of a lot of the, like, so Daredevil's mentor is a guy named Stick, and the Turtles' mentor is a guy named Splinter. And the Daredevil goes up against a group of ninjas called the Hand, and the Turtles go up against a group of ninjas called the Foot. And so there was a lot of like play on like that kind of stuff and borrowing a lot of that kind of language and things, because it was basically, like Trav said, it was all like a joke. It was just like, how many things can we kind of rob from the most successful comics to try and make something that would be ha 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 ha, look at us playing a spoof on all these successful comics, and then it becomes like more successful than almost any of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
So how does Ninja play into Daredevil?
Well, Daredevil's like Ninja is like,
he's essentially kind of a ninja.
Yeah, if you read the comics, like the idea of Daredevil and ninjas cross over all the time. And so Frank Miller kind of brought it in when he was writing Daredevil in the early 80s, which is why it lines up with this, which is Daredevil kind of coming across this group of ninjas who are trying to take over New York called the Hand, and goes up against them, and it really turned Daredevil books to like a ninja focused, more of a karate thing, which you don't see as much in the Daredevil TV show, at least in season 1, but season 2 does talk about
season 2.
The
you do. You definitely don't really see it in the movies.
No, it's not in the Ben Affleck movie at all.
Now that you say it, I do remember like the Netflix version of Daredevil.
Yeah, season 2.
They do incorporate quite a bit of ninja. I didn't realize that's why. I just thought they were taking liberties to throw ninjas in there. But.
Yeah. And so when they first made that first issue and they published it, they only had 3,275 copies. And those sold out in days. And in fact, they had a bunch of reorders that came through, and I think it was like 15,000 orders after that initial thing. And so, and this is kind of like, and we're not going to go into the like all the comic stuff, but when they were first starting out, like I said, they had no plans of making this like a franchise. They were doing one issue. That's why, spoiler alert, if you didn't know, they kill off Shredder at the end. Very, very much like what happens in the movie. Yeah, in the first issue of the comic book, they kill off Shredder. And they're like later on they realize, oh crud, maybe we shouldn't have done that. But
that was a pretty good villain.
Did they bring him back as Super Shredder?
No, they do not.
Snap.
In fact, the comics get really, really weird. They do a lot of interdimensional.
Is that where Crane comes in?
Crane?
Yeah.
Because I always thought Crane was like weird turn, but because he was from like interdimensional
Dimension
whatever.
X, right? Isn't that what it's called? Dimension X.
Yeah.
But they go through various different things where they fight like dinosaur people and a bunch.
Comics are super weird.
They get weird, but
they're a little too weird for my taste. I do enjoy some of the issues, but they get pretty wild.
Do you have all of the issues, Trav, either one?
I have like 4 volumes of them, but I don't have all of them.
I don't have all of them.
But the very beginning, and this is why, kind of getting off on a slight tangent here, is it bugs me. Like the very first movie that came out was amazing. And ever since then, like it's all been just one giant disappointment.
I don't know. I think
like
that
the Secret of the
TMNT.
Ooze?
I thought the TMNT was okay.
That
was the
okay.
first like animated one.
It was the first animated one. It was after Nickelodeon had acquired.
Yeah, and like it takes place within the universe of the original 3, but it's like animated, not live action. I thought it was pretty good.
The one. It was like 2008.
Yeah,
it's like
2000. I think it'd be even before that, maybe like 2003, 2002. I feel like.
No, because
I feel like my son
You and I went to it, Trav.
Did we? I mean, I remember seeing it. So let's see. I'll do it.
And I feel like Tia was there.
Oh, really, Tia? You know what? You might be right, actually. 2007. Good job.
Okay.
Yeah, good job, Danny.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of how everything started. Now, the funny thing is that there was a guy named Mark Friedman who ended up becoming their agent, who at the time had no company. He had no clients. He had one business card, and he went and rented a power suit. Like some tux, or not even a tux. It was
one
like
of those
a
big shoulder things.
It was something back in the 80s. And he had seen the comic and had heard it from various other people, and it was kind of a big thing. But if you read the first issue, like it is it's a dark comic. It's violent. It's gritty. And so it was not supposed to be a children's thing. In fact, Trav, back. Comics have kind of gone up and down, obviously, through the decades. Mid to late 80s, what did it look like then? Do you know?
It was like right on the cusp of the boom, actually. I mean,
was
on the
it?
cusp of the pop of the bubble. Yeah, like 1992's X-Men #1 was, or 91. X-Men #1 was one of the highest selling comic books of all time. And because everyone was like, ooh, X-Men #1 is going to be worth so much money someday. I'll put my kids through college on it. So I'll buy 6 copies. And what they don't realize is they flooded the market. And now you can get X-Men #1 for like 5 cents.
Yeah.
It's worth nothing.
But
it was shortly after that the Spectator boom popped.
But most of the people that, I guess the target market for comics was not like your younger generation necessarily.
No, it was a very weird time because it was coming up on Dark Knight Returns had just come out, which is a very adult story, and Killing Joke. And so there was a lot of like transition from kids into adult comic book storytelling. And it was the introduction of the direct market, which is buying from comic book stores instead of spinner racks at a grocery store, which allowed the stories to be a lot more adult and dark as well. So it was a very transitional period for comics at that point.
That's why when they were writing it, they were writing it for that target market. The people that they felt were going to be the ones that were going to be buying it. They had, again, it's kind of all goes back to the fact that they had no clue what they had or what they invented. So pretty much as far as like the toys go, as we're going to get into right now, it was something that had to change everything from what they originally created into something that was marketed towards children. And that's where Mark Friedman comes in. He comes in and he basically says, I want to be your agent. I want to get into the toy market. I think this could be, something that would be really good and that we could be really successful at. He goes around and talks to a bunch of different companies. Like he went and talked to a company called LGN, and I had never really heard of LGN, but I've seen their toys. They did toys for Thundercats, the WWF wrestling figures, which I actually had a couple of those. I was never really into
I was
WWF,
never into a WWF.
but my dad kind of did, and so he bought me a couple of those toys. And then like Gremlins. You remember when Gremlins came out? And
I have a Gremlins toy.
Yeah. So LGN did the Gremlins toys. Went to like Mattel, got laughed out of there, went to several others, and finally ended up, he had a buddy who had just gotten a job with a small Chinese manufacturing toy company called Playmates. And
I've heard of them.
yeah, well, you have now.
Because of them. I have to get a charger. I'm going to get a charger. I can still hear you. Goodbye.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say with a small Chinese man.
I'm sure there were small Chinese men. But anyway, so he talked to this buddy of his and said, I'm going to send you something. And I guess Kevin and Peter had already created like almost like a turtle doll. It was this large, almost like rubber type doll that they had just made. Probably had somebody that kind of helped make them for him or whatever.
Like just as like a decorative piece, or is this like they were trying to make a toy that was?
Well, he was like a big stuffed animal is really what he was, but he was made out of like foam. So I don't know. They in the documentary that I watched, they had some pictures of it and stuff. But so this guy takes that and he sends it to him and he says,
"Wait, what documentary is this?"
The Toys That Made Us on Netflix.
Called The Toys That Made Us on Netflix.
I gotta watch that.
Yeah, it's really good. They've got several other things on there. But so this
really
guy,
quick, sorry, Trav, before you jump into the toys, I'm just curious. Did they originally? So when he originally came up with the concept of the 4 different turtles with the 4 different weapons, are the weapons that they currently are associated with the weapons that he came up with at first?
Yes.
So those never changed?
Yeah, those never changed. The names, they came up with the names. Those never changed. But as you'll see, like if you can see behind me, they all look identical, right?
Yeah. Is that from the original comic book?
That's from the original comics. So
they all have the same color bandana things?
Yeah, they all had red bandanas. Their skin, color was all the same. And that all changed because they needed to market it differently and with the availability to give character to these turtles.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was also most like their personalities were all kind of pretty much the same as well. There wasn't a lot of difference. Like we know Donatello to be the tech guy, right? He was never originally the tech guy. That was created later for purposes which I'll get to in just a second.
Michelangelo,
and Raphael,
party dude.
Yep, and Raphael was cool but rude.
Yeah.
But Leonardo was the leader. So,
So, I mean, finally, Playmates, they took a look at it and they're like, you know what? Because Playmates was just they were strictly into making dolls. Like, their big seller that got them into America was this doll called Cricket that was like, it could talk to you. It had all these animatronics in it, and it was like $100. So they were looking kind of for something new, something that was going to be cheaper, but that they could, mass produce. And so that's what the Turtles kind of became for them. But getting that deal done was like the easiest part of the whole process. Because, number one, Peter and Kevin, their deal was like, I don't care really what happens as long as we get the final say of everything that happens. So it's like, if Playmates wanted to make a character or change some style or whatever, it would have to be okayed by Peter and Kevin. That was their biggest thing. They just didn't want their creation to be messed up by some other people. But anyway, and the initial deal was like worth $150,000. So that's what they got, was $150,000. And that was, and their action figure line was to start production in like January of 1987. And they went out there and they talked to various other, like big store, not producer. So you had like Target, Sears, Toys R Us, and a couple of other stores that they went and talked to. It was like right before this big toy convention, and they all got
like each
out.
of the stores has like basically like professional purchasers, right? Like they have to go through to get their products in the stores. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So they had the product, at least prototypes. They were finding that they were running into some roadblocks. So here's a couple of the roadblocks. One was the different toys that they were up against. So here's the top 10 of that time. So, and I was going to look this up because I don't know what one of them is, but I didn't have time to do it. So number 10 was a toy called Mask. That is.
Oh yeah, I know Mask. M-A-S-K.
What is Mask? Yeah.
It's like they were kind of like an army thing. Think they were like an undercover CIA sort of thing. Mask was a acronym for something.
Not the Jim Carrey movie?
What? No, not the Jim Carrey
thing?
movie.
Not the Jim Carrey. No, that didn't come out.
Yeah, it was like M-A-S-K with periods. It stood for something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So number 10 was Mask.
Well, is that like, are you talking, is like Thunderhawk, Firecracker, Jackhammer, as far as the Mask toys?
Maybe. I didn't look it up.
I don't know the specific names it could be. I just know it was like a CIA kind of toy type of thing.
Yeah, it looks like they have a bunch of vehicles. They have Coast Patrol.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
But number 9 was My Little Pony. Number 8 was He-Man. Number 7, Transformers. 6, Teddy Ruxpin. Number 5 was the WWF wrestler.
Teddy Ruxpin. He was the talking teddy bear, right?
He was the talking teddy. Yeah.
You put a tape recorder in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Buddy, Grubby.
Grubby. Did you see that Robot Chicken where they put like a Gallagher tape in the back of Teddy Ruxpin and he tries to kill himself?
No.
Anyway, that's all.
Hey, you met Seth Green, didn't you?
What?
You met Seth Green, didn't you?
I did, but it's a story for another time.
And he makes chicken, right?
Number 4 was Cabbage Patch Dolls, 3 Barbie, 2 G.I. Joe, and at that time, number 1 was Pound Puppies. I remember Pound Puppies. So
was a solid
what was number 5? I missed 5.
Number 5 was the Wrestlers.
Oh, okay.
But so they had a lot of like competition there of like toys that had already been established. The other thing is kind of like what Trav said. I mean, in the similar fashion of, I mean, it's probably a little bit easier this way, but there was just a couple of rules. Like, I mean, when you're making toys, you're marketing it towards children.
Yeah.
And I mean, unless you had like some collectors, but I kind of feel like we make up the generation of a lot of collectors for toys. And I could be wrong.
No,
but,
you're definitely right.
Okay. So our
like,
generation
what do you,
was
by generation of a lot of collectors, you mean that there was just a lot of the toys that are collected just happened to be from when we were kids?
Yeah, I'm just saying that like a lot of adults probably were not into buying toys for themselves. Like they
that's exactly. Yeah, like the idea, we're the first generation that has like allowed our childhood to continue into adulthood. Every other generation was like, well, I'm a man now, so I put away childish things. And thus, therefore, I'm, now all about the newspaper. And we're the first one that's like, I want to get more turtle action figures.
Yeah. So, and see, that's because I always look on like eBay and stuff because I want myself. I used to have a bunch of them. I have no clue where they went. I don't have them anymore. I would love them back. But
you don't have any of your collection?
I don't know what happened to them.
I have all mine still, except for I had the sewer and I don't have it anymore. So,
didn't Danny? Whatever happened to? We had like full-size proton packs for Ghostbusters and like a trap that you would literally like throw out there and you could step on a pedal and it would open. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember talking about that trap a long time ago. Like, what was it? Probably like 20, 30 minutes ago. I talked about that trap. But
you did? Was I in the bathroom?
He mentioned the trap. He did not talk about the proton packs. So don't let him make.
No, we did have like full size. Full size meaning full size for a kid that's like 6 or 8 or something. Not like the full size that would fit an adult now. But I don't know what happened to all those toys though.
Like we were like the turtle was assassin. So it was really hard to do that. And so they ended up contacting before they said, all right, we're going to throw these toys out there into the world. We need to make sure that we can generate interest. So they signed on with some production company to create a 5-part miniseries of a cartoon for the Turtles. And so really and truly, the cartoon was made to drive sales for the toys. And that was the sole purpose of it.
And that's the cartoon that spun out into the real cartoon.
What?
That 5-episode miniseries was what spun into the real.
Because it was so popular.
Is it so popular?
And the moment that it hit, their original amount of, I think, because Toys R Us finally came around and said, all right, we'll take a chance on you guys. And so they were the only place that you could actually get turtle toys. And the original order was 5,000 units, which I don't know how many Toys R Us there were back then, but that's only 5,000 toys to go to spread throughout all of them.
Yeah.
And they sold out in like minutes. And so Toys R Us then later on calls up Playmates and says, hey, we want 150,000 units. Or no, it was 50,000, sorry. But anyway, so that's kind of how it just kind of blew up. And the one cool thing, Trav, I don't know, do you know who made the Turtles theme?
No, I don't know.
Chuck Lorre.
The guy who did like How I Met Your Mother and all those.
And Big Bang Theory.
And Big Bang Theory, yeah.
2.5 Men, yeah. Before he was a producer, he was this struggling, traveling musician trying to make a name for himself.
He did the theme song for the cartoon?
For the cartoon. So you know, like Chuck Lorre is 100% responsible for that theme song that we all know and love. And you know in the middle of it where it's like, he's a radical rat or something like that. Anytime it's just that in-between talking thing, that's Chuck Lorre.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's cool.
So
Chuck
anyway.
It looks like Toys R Us had like about 800 stores at its peak.
Okay. Well, at its peak. I don't know what.
But I think the 80s and 90s were its peak.
I mean, you're still looking at like 5 per store or something, right? That how the math would work on that?
Yeah, it was not a not a lot. Not
like
a lot of
6.6
or so, yeah.
5, yeah.
Is there still that one in Sugar House?
They're all closed.
No, they're all closed.
All of them
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
May they rest in peace.
That's why there's such a flood of toys on the market like a couple years ago when Toys R Us had a liquidate.
Yeah, we took their theme song to heart that we didn't want to grow up. We want to be Toys R Us kids. And then they just shut the doors.
You guys need to go home.
Now that you guys are adults, F you. But basically
Toys R Us shutting down is why our parents got divorced. They couldn't take us to Toys R Us anymore to spite each other.
Oh, that's right. You guys can't go and get toys anymore.
That almost
so just to end this,
35 when Toys R Us shut down.
Yeah. So just to end everything, I wanted to just bring up. So the original line that they released out into the stores consisted of 10 action figures and 5 vehicles. And so let's see if you guys can guess. So 4 of them are super easy. I think the actual figurines are going to be the easiest.
All right. So Raphael, Donatello, Michelangelo, Leonardo, and Splinter were the 5 action figures.
Okay. Well, no.
And Shredder.
So there's 5 more action
10
figures.
Yeah, there's
10 action
right?
figures and 5 vehicles.
So so you've got Shredder as well.
Okay.
Casey Jones.
Foot Soldier.
Soldier.
April O'Neil.
Casey Jones.
April O'Neil.
Oh, April O'Neil.
No, Casey
really?
Jones.
No, Casey Jones. Was it the Bug, the fly guy?
No.
No.
What was Shredder's number 2 guy?
You're missing 2 two bad guys that are
Oh,
pretty.
Bebop and Rocksteady.
There you go.
Oh, Bebop and
So
Rocksteady.
yeah, so those
Those
guys.
the ones in the second movie.
Yeah.
Well, that was like the play. Yeah.
That's
Well, in
The
the,
second
The
movie
original
there.
Bebop
second
and
movie.
Rocksteady were like actual
They were
like,
like a-
punk rock.
and then they
like,
became
yeah.
a rhino and
and a warthog.
and a boar.
warthog.
Oh,
But then in the movie, they're like a turtle and a
a spiky turtle
dog.
and then like
bug.
a werewolf.
I mean, like
looking-
Toka and Razor.
Toka and
Yeah,
Razor.
Toka and
Yeah.
Razor.
Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
like the actual Bebop.
Why
and
didn't they
Rocksteady.
just do
Yeah.
whatever? It's not important.
Which
It would have been
that's-
cooler if it was the actual Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah, well, that's why they put him in the new second movie that came out just a few years ago,
Yeah.
which I
Boo.
think had that movie
Boo.
somehow released back when we were kids, I think we would have been amazed with it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But because we were amazed with the Secret of the Ooze, but now I go back and I watch that and it pisses me off. I've told Danny this, I think I've told Alan this, but you go back and they completely changed the whole feel of it. They don't ever
Oh, yeah,
use their
completely.
freaking weapons because everybody was so upset about how kind of gritty it was. And so
he
all they
uses
do is,
sausages.
yeah, he uses sausages.
Oh
for
yeah, he does.
nunchucks
Huh?
and- yeah, go back and watch it. They don't
Blink.
ever use.
It's
their
like a
freaking-
Three Stooges episode. They're like
Yeah.
poking people in the eyes and stuff, and
Yeah.
like ramming
Yeah.
them with their shells.
and it bugs me. Also, another little known fact: the kid who plays was his Kano or not Kano, the pizza delivery kid. in
Yeah.
number
Isn't
two.
it
Yeah.
Kano?
Kano?
I think it is.
Like,
Do you
I
know
think it's
why
Kano.
he got that role?
Hmm.
Because he was
Wasn't
an
he in a
original
Surfers movie
actor-
or something?
No, he was an original actor who was in the turtle suits in the first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I can't remember which one he is, but he did such a good job that they liked him so much. They're like, let's give you an actual role in the second one.
so who played? Did he play both in the second one?
No. So in the second one, he was just him. But I mean, even the actors, they were just in the suits. They didn't do the talking. They had other people
okay.
doing the voiceovers.
But which April O'Neil did you find more attractive? One or two?
Oh, number 2, definitely.
For sure. That was like the improvement on that one.
Yeah.
Not that number one is like a hideous monster, but number two is more my style.
Yeah.
I never noticed they changed the.
They're
They did.
completely different people.
completely different.
Like,
Go back. You need to go back and watch them all.
it'd be like if you and I were like swapping roles in the movie. That's like the level of difference between these two.
Yeah, like
All right.
the first April O'Neil was like, she had like the freckles and the curly hair, and the second one was like taller and had longer hair and was a different person.
She had more of like a pixie cut, the second one.
Yeah.
So
But okay, so we got the 10 action
What
figures.
about
So
the third one where they go to Japan back in time?
Turtles in Time.
I will
That's the
say,
same one as the
by
second
the
one.
way.
that
Huh?
movie changed me for the rest of my life because I had to go to the bathroom at the end and I missed a joke and I came in and everybody was laughing and I was like, I'll never get a soda. at the
Because of
movies
that
again.
movie, he never gets a drink.
I don't ever get a drink at the soda. Like I never get a drink at movies because I don't want to have to miss. Like I missed whatever funny thing happened at the end of Turtles 3. Haunts me.
All right, so there's 5 vehicles that they released with it as well. So let's see if you guys can remember, or at least try and come up.
All right, so it was
The
their
van.
Yes,
the
the
van.
van.
Was there like a motorcycle?
I think later, but that wasn't one of them.
There was a buggy, wasn't there? A buggy,
Yeah.
like a little kind of like weird
No.
big
So
wheel thing.
Was there a airplane of some type?
there was a blimp.
A blimp.
Lamp, that's right.
So the blimp was one. There was also one called the cheapskate, and that was the skateboard that had the fan on the back.
Oh yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that.
Remember that? There was one called the Turtle Trooper, and that was like
Was that
a
the one that
parachute.
Yeah,
It
I
was a
remember that one
parachute,
too.
but then it was also a pack that had like these gliding wings on the side. And then the final one was for the bad guys. It was called the Foot Knuckle, which might be close relative to the moose knuckle. I don't know. But basically it was this thing that it kind of looked like a spider, but the legs had like these boxing gloves at the end. And it was what the Foot Clan rode, and it could like trap the turtles.
You guys do not Google foot knuckle. Make sure you put the rest of the information in there. I was just looking it up, and I was like, oh gosh.
Yeah, so those were the things. I mean, really, there's so much more to it that, like, I was telling them where this all kind of stemmed from was I started watching The Toys That Made Us on Netflix, and it was just fascinating. Like, I had already known quite a bit about the backstory about the turtles and stuff, but it didn't know that so much went into it like, I had no clue that really the only reason why they made the cartoon was just so they could sell toys.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I was going to say, like, kind of rewinding a little bit. When they decided to make the TV show, that's when they're like, okay, well, how are we going to sell toys if every single turtle looks the same and acts the same? So that's when they gave them different color bandanas. They changed their skin color a little bit to differ. They gave them their initial on their belt in the front, and then gave them all different personalities. So you have your leader type, which is Leonardo, your tech geek, Donatello. What did they call it?
Michelangelo was the partier.
Well, so he was the partier, but they had you had your, what they said was your sarcastic, smartass, angst-filled kid. Because we got to remember they're teenagers. So just your kid that is got all the problems, you know, and is just filled with anger, and that's Raphael. And then they described Mikey as the one to embody teenagerness of all of them. Yeah. So where they lack in being teenagers, he's the one that kind of overcompensates for that. So
did you see Saturday Night Live's video they did last week that was like middle-aged adult Ninja Turtles or whatever? No. You should go look it up. It's very funny. They do like a mini episode of what it's like to see the turtles as like middle-aged. Like Mikey's at like a strip club and stuff, and like Donatello thinks he gets a call where he thinks he has cancer. So he got the results back, and he's just like listening on the phone and stuff. It's pretty funny.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Cool, but that's basically
the personalities was like a huge part of what like made them relatable for kids.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing each kid how much they went through to get to that point. So, and one last thing, just because I find it funny, do you guys remember? Because they. As sales died down, they would always try and bring it back with another different series because, you know, after the cartoon series was done and the movies, each movie after the first one, because the first one was like the top grossing indie movie in like the world at the time, or like of history at the time. Yeah. But then the second one came and the third one, and each one got worse and worse. And then they tried to, I think later on, they eventually ended up selling to Nickelodeon for like $60 million. But at that time, before then, another production company or another TV station put on like a live action because they wanted to combat Power Rangers. And that was the one, if you remember, they had like a girl turtle in it.
Yeah.
That was the end of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird's friendship.
Was the addition of the girl turtle?
It was the addition of the girl. They both didn't really want her, but Kevin gave in because he just wanted some more money. And Peter said, F it. I am not doing this. We're done. And so the girl turtle ruined their friendship. And later on, Peter was the one who ended up making the deal with, and I don't know exactly the logistics of this, but he's the one that ended up making the deal with Nickelodeon, and he got $60 million and Kevin got zero.
What? So wait, did he buy out Kevin then before?
So I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know all the logistics of it and how it ended up happening. Later on, they have reconnected.
Yeah, they've rekindled.
They've rekindled. And but every single time they come out with a new series, they're just able to make more toys, and there's always like it starts dying down, and then there's this bump again, and then it just keeps going up and down. It's just one of those things that'll never go away, which is great because it's such an important part of our history. When it
have you watched
toys.
the latest series, the newest one? It's pretty not my speed, we'll say.
Yeah.
I have a new cartoon series.
A lot of people actually say that that's one of the better ones, but
it's very fast and kinetic and
But all right, well there you go. There's all.
Wait. I have one question.
Yeah.
So who was everyone's favorite turtle?
Oh yes.
Mine was
Leonardo.
Leonardo, Danny. You said Raphael, Alan.
Yeah.
You know what? That is so cliche of you two. So we got the kid filled with angst most of his childhood, and the kid who thought that he was the leader.
I didn't think I was.
I know who yours is, Trav. I'm pretty sure.
Let's just say
right?
Mine is. Although I'm wearing a Leonardo. This is my son's hat. Actually, we have the same size head.
His son has a large head
he has a large head.
Form.
But so this is Leo. But my favorite was Mikey.
My favorite growing up was Mikey, but in the last few years, I've found a real appreciation for Donatello.
Dude, look at all of us. We can all make a.
I was gonna say, I feel like I'm willing to take a Donatello hit to make it a 4 turtle trifecta between all of us.
So one of these days we need to just do a screenplay and act it out.
Yeah, that seems like a plan that'll get us a lot of money. Ripping off the Ninja Turtles and doing a screenplay about it.
I'm my name isn't Michelangelo, it's Michelangelo.
It's totally different.
Not Leonardo.
Leonardo. Tortoises.
We don't require much water. We're fine on land.
So, all right. Well, is there anything else, guys, before we close up shop?
No, I mean,
no.
I think, as Trav said at the beginning of the episode, somehow we find a way to be able to talk about any subject.
Oh no, it froze.
But I mean,
I would just suggest to everybody who's listening, if you've made it this far, is go on to Netflix, watch the Toys That Made Us.
Yeah,
there's have you watched all of it, Trav? I mean, or at least some and any of it. I've watched the Turtles and the Power Rangers. Those are the only two that I've watched. But
looking it up though, it looks like there was G.I. Joe.
There's
Lego.
G.I. Joe.
A bunch of them. There's several, right?
Yeah, I think there's 2 or 3 seasons of it, and I think each season has 4 episodes. So, it's really interesting. Just as kids, we just go and buy the things that we like. Well, even now, we buy the things that we like, and we don't really know the backstory to them. And that's why I wanted to do this, because I found it so interesting. So, but go watch that. Catch us at our. You can find us on our website if we still have a website. Do we still have a website?
Yep.
All right.
www.qcopodcast.com.
And of course, all of our social medias, everything's at just Google QCO Podcast, and that should come up eventually.
Yeah, we got Twitter at QCO Podcast, Facebook QCO Podcast, Instagram QCO Podcast.
Everything. That's why I said just Google QCO Podcast. But with how things are going right now, it's a little bit more entertaining if you can watch it. So go to YouTube, check us out there. Click the subscribe so you know when we're going to be doing those things. We're going to try and keep things a little bit more focused on non-pandemic crap now. Pandemic.
But if you do want to listen to more about pandemics, just check out Dream number 9.
There's several others that I believe to be sequels that are not called Pandemic Part 2 and 3, but there are. You'll just have to find them. Like one of them is about the ponies, I think. That
well, there
turn
was
you into
one
zombies.
there was the ponies one, but there was another one that was the volcanic violins or something.
Oh yeah. So yeah, volcanic violins, something about ponies. Those are Pandemics Part 2 and 3, although that's not what they're called.
I think it was
Danny doesn't know how to like
pony.
title things. He just need like I don't know. But anyway, so we're gonna still do the dreams. We'll come out with them whenever we're able to. There's kind of no rhyme or reason right now with how things are. We're all just kind of trapped in our house. We're doing the best we can. Hopefully one day we'll be able to get back to where we have some higher quality audio and stuff like that. But thank you everybody for listening to us.
We are working on trying to get higher quality even for the Zoom recorded episodes. But right now, because of the pandemic, everything takes forever to ship from Amazon. Good thing we have somebody here that works for Amazon.
Don't diss my company.
So,
Personal company I own.
well, no, I was just figuring that I could just give you my order and you could just get me the stuff directly.
I mean, it's just like I work next to the warehouse guy, so I can just ask him. He can package stuff for you.
He's best friends with him.
Yeah, his name's Doug, and he's great.
There's just like one warehouse dude.
It's just like a guy. I'm like, hey, Doug, can you go check for my friend Danny's order? Bring it on up here. I'll just hand deliver it. Thanks.
Are you like Michael Scott going down in the warehouse and bugging him?
I haven't even. It's like a warehouse nowhere even near me. So.
If there was, I bet they would have cosmic crystals.
Okay.
Probably not.
Yep.
All right, we'll end on that note. Thanks everybody for listening, and just catch us next time.
Poncho will. Oh,
Cosmic Crisp.
Poncho will.
Astrophysics.